For years, I thought investing was something other people did, people who had money figured out, people who understood the stock market, people who weren't me. And the longer I waited, the more complicated it seemed. But here's what nobody tells you. The hardest part about investing isn't the actual investing. It's everything you believe about it before you even start. Hey, I'm Evan. Last time I talked about why normal people stay broke, and a lot of you asked about investing. So I want to talk about that today. Not the technical stuff, not which specific things to invest in, but the things nobody warns you about when you're just trying to figure out where to begin. Because I spent years avoiding investing, and looking back, almost everything I believed about it was wrong. And those wrong beliefs cost me more than any mistake I could have made by actually starting. The first thing nobody tells you is that your fear of investing is probably way bigger than the actual risk. When I thought about investing, I imagined losing everything. I pictured putting my money somewhere and watching it disappear. And because that fear felt so real, I just didn't do anything. I kept my money in my checking account where it felt safe. But here's what I didn't understand. Doing nothing was also a choice, and that choice had consequences. While I was protecting my money from imaginary losses, inflation was quietly eating away at it. Every year, my money could buy a little bit less. I wasn't losing it dramatically, but I was losing it slowly. And I was missing out on years where my money could have been growing. The fear made sense, but it was based on this idea that investing meant gambling, that it was all or nothing. And that's not what investing actually is. Real investing, the boring kind that actually works, isn't about big risky bets. It's about putting your money somewhere it can grow slowly over time. The risk isn't zero, but it's not what I thought it was either. Most people never start because the fear feels too big, but the cost of waiting is bigger than they realize. The second thing nobody tells you is that you don't need to become an expert before you start. I used to think I had to understand everything. How the market works, how to read charts, how to pick the right investments. I thought if I didn't know all of that, I'd mess it up. So I kept researching, kept reading, kept telling myself I'd start once I really understood it. But here's the problem with that thinking. You can spend years learning and still not feel ready because there's always more to know. And while you're waiting to feel like an expert, time is passing. And time is the most valuable thing you have when it comes to investing. The truth is, you don't need to know everything. You need to understand a few basic ideas and then you need to start, even if it's small, even if you're not confident, because doing something simple and consistent will always beat doing nothing while you wait to feel ready. I know people who have been planning to start investing for 5 years. They know more about investing than I do, but they still haven't started. And in those 5 years, they've missed out on 5 years of growth. Knowledge without action doesn't build anything. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to understand enough to take the first step. The third thing is this: you don't need a lot of money to start, and small amounts actually matter. I used to think investing was for people who had thousands of dollars sitting around. I thought if I only had 50 or $100, there was no point. It wouldn't make a difference. So I'd wait until I had more. But that was completely backwards. Here's what actually happens. When you invest small amounts consistently over time, they add up. Not because each amount is big, but because time makes them grow. The earlier you start, even with tiny amounts, the more time your money has to work. Let me put it this way. If you wait until you have a large amount saved up to invest all at once, you've already lost years. Those years matter more than the size of the amount. Starting small and early beats starting big and late. Every single time. And here's the other thing. Starting small teaches you how it works. You learn by doing. You see how it feels, how it moves, what happens over time. If you wait until you have a big amount, your first experience with investing is also high stakes. That makes it scarier and harder to stick with. Small amounts matter because they get you in the game. And being in the game, even in a small way, is infinitely better than sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment. Here's the fourth thing. Investing that actually works is boring, and nobody tells you that boring is exactly what you want. When you see investing online or hear people talk about it, it sounds exciting. Big wins, quick gains, people making huge returns. And that creates this expectation that investing should be thrilling. But real investing, The kind that builds wealth over decades is not exciting. It's repetitive. You put money in regularly, you leave it alone, you don't check it constantly, you don't make dramatic moves, you just let time do its thing. I thought this sounded disappointing at first. I wanted to feel like I was doing something smart, something active. But the reality is that the best strategy is usually the most boring one. Consistent, long-term, no drama. The exciting stuff, the stuff that gets attention, is usually risky. It's people making big bets, hoping for huge returns, and sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. And even when it does, it's not repeatable. You can't build a stable financial future on excitement and luck. Boring is good because boring is sustainable. You can do it for years without burning out, without making emotional decisions, without losing sleep. And over time, boring compounds into something significant. If you're expecting investing to feel thrilling, you're going to be disappointed. But if you can embrace the fact that it's boring, you're already ahead of most people. The fifth thing nobody tells you is that you will make mistakes, and that's completely fine. I was so afraid of doing it wrong that I didn't do anything at all. I thought if I made a mistake, I'd ruin everything. But that's not how it works. Everyone makes mistakes when they start. You might invest in something that doesn't perform well. You might panic and pull your money out at the wrong time. You might wait too long to start or start and then stop. These are normal. They're part of learning. The key is that small mistakes early on don't cost you much. If you're starting with small amounts, a mistake just means you learn something without losing a lot. But if you wait years to start because you're trying to avoid all mistakes, you lose something you can never get back: time. I made mistakes. I invested in things I didn't fully understand. I got nervous during a market dip and almost pulled everything out. But those mistakes taught me more than any article or video could have. And because I started small, those mistakes didn't set me back. They just made me smarter. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to start, to learn as you go, and to stay consistent. Mistakes are part of the process. What's not part of the process is waiting forever because you're afraid of getting it wrong. The sixth thing, and this is the most important one: time matters more than anything else. You can't control the market. You can't predict what's going to happen next year or in 5 years, but you can control when you start. And the earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.